I remember the first time I killed a man. Not his face, not the little sound he made as life left him. Those details have been swallowed by 10,000 years of butchery. What remains is the sensation, how effortless it was, how right it felt. The balance of the spear in my hands, the exact pressure required, the precise point to strike. I was made for that single function. Every cell, every strand of muscle, every impulse in my mind was aligned toward one purpose: protection, service, obedience. These are the pillars on which my existence rests. My name is Decimus Vilen, Shield Captain of the Adeptus Custodes, Guardian of the Emperor of Mankind. This is not a tale of triumph. It is a confession. The corridors of the inner palace lie quiet, disturbed only by the measured clank of my auramite greaves on marble. Gold reflects gold from every polished surface. We stand wrapped in splendor while extinction looms over us all. 10 millennia I have walked these same halls. 10 millennia of identical routines, familiar routes, unchanging duties. Perfection does not demand variety. Perfection demands constancy. My vigil begins as it always has, 16 hours of absolute stillness before the sealed doors of the Sanctum Imperialis. Beyond them is what remains of the Master of Mankind, withered upon the golden throne. His body decays, even as his mind fights an unending war across dimensions no human tongue can describe. And I stand guard, hour after hour, day after day, century upon century. My muscles never ache. They were engineered never to tire. My attention never wavers. My mind was built for eternal vigilance. Doubt never touches my thoughts. It was carved out of me before my lungs drew their first breath. I am a flawless sentinel. That is the nature of my nightmare. You cannot truly grasp what it means to be incapable of failure, to be stripped of the right to be weak. Each custodian is a masterpiece, shaped by methods long since lost. We are not churned out in endless ranks like the Astartes. We are not mere soldiers. We are living weapons, philosophical concepts hammered into flesh. When the Emperor created us, he did more than perfect our bodies. He remade our souls. Pilgrims who catch a fleeting glimpse of us in the outer palace see only the gleam of auramite, the impossible symmetry of our forms, the inhuman grace of our movements. They whisper prayers as we pass, certain that we are blessed. They do not see the shackles. Golden chains of duty and gene sorcery bind us, locked in place by an oath 10,000 years old, tying us to a corpse that refuses to die. I watch a line of petitioners inch toward the eternity gate. High lords, imperial governors, chapter masters, the highest of the Imperium reduced to quivering supplicants at the heart of imperial might. They do not stand before the Emperor himself. Few ever do. Instead, they plead before his proxies, hoping their words will somehow reach his distant, godlike awareness. The air is thick with their anxiety, the stench of fear, ambition, reverence, and dread. Among them walks a space marine in dark green plate, a son of the Dark Angels. Even he, a transhuman warrior, appears small in these halls. The Astartes are weapons. We custodians were companions. That distinction once mattered when the Emperor still walked among men. Now it is just one more ornate lie we repeat to justify existing. The Dark Angel's gaze brushes across me as he passes. I see the instant he recognizes what I am, then something rarer still in an Astarte's eyes. Awe. Even to the Space Marines, we are legends. Flawless beings, unchanged since the Great Crusade. Relics that still breathe from a more glorious age. If only he knew the truth. Perfection is a prison. Imagine living without any possibility of growth, without the capacity to improve or evolve. I began life at the apex of human potential. Every challenge set before me since was surmountable by design. There is no true triumph in victory when defeat cannot occur. There is no real satisfaction in duty when choice has been surgically removed. There is only the endless golden corridor stretching forward, unaltered, forever. The weight of my spear suddenly seems heavy in my grasp, though its mass has not changed. The Guardian Spear. Emblem of my rank, a tool built to kill anything that exists. In 10,000 years, it has never failed. Or perhaps it is more accurate to say that I have never failed while wielding it. After so long, the distinction dissolves. In the still hours of my watch, I sometimes dwell on what I am. We were made to be the Emperor's companions as much as his bodyguards. We were meant to share his vision, to act as confidants and counselors as well as warriors. But the Emperor has not spoken in 10 millennia. What use is a companion whose master no longer converses? What counsel can be given to one who cannot hear? The answer is etched into every burnished plate of my armor. We endure. We maintain the watch. We stand ready for the day he rises again. Faith sustains the common masses of the Imperium. Duty sustains the Astartes. But the Custodes are upheld by something far more terrible. Certainty. We do not believe the Emperor will return. We know it. That conviction is encoded into our very genes, written into our minds by his own hand. To doubt would be to rebel against our own nature. And so I stand, one more gilded statue among many in the palace halls, unmoving, unchanging, watching humanity march before me. Each face distinct, each life a brief spark in the dark. They grow old and die while I persist. They change while I remain fixed. They dream of glory while I inhabit it and find it empty. The only time I feel anything close to peace is in battle. Not joy. Joy would demand a capacity for happiness burned out of me long ago. Not satisfaction. What satisfaction can there be in doing exactly what you were designed to do? No. In those moments of precise, unrestrained violence, what I experience is silence. The silence of total focus. The silence of purpose realized. In those short intervals, the burden of eternity lifts, and I simply exist. Yet such moments are increasingly rare. The palace is the most impregnable fortress in the galaxy. Few foes even reach its outer skin. Fewer still pierce the inner ring. My spear has tasted blood only 17 times in the last 100 years. 17 stolen instants of silence amid a century of suffocating purpose. I do not speak of this to seek your pity. Pity implies that things might have been different, that somewhere there is a reality in which I am free of this golden cage. There is no such place. I tell you so you can see the truth beneath the myth. So that when you whisper devotions to the golden guardians of the throne, you understand the nature of the beings you revere. We are not gods. We are not angels. We are thinking weapons, breathing tools. Perfection without aim, glory without conclusion. And within that endless glory lies our damnation. I remember the first time I saw the Emperor after the heresy. Not on the battlefield or in the war rooms where he once crafted the conquest of the galaxy. Those memories remain sharp, stored with unerring clarity in my altered mind. I speak of the first time I beheld him upon the golden throne, after he ceased to be merely a man and became, in truth if not by title, a god. Few custodians are allowed into the throne room itself. Even among the 10,000, only a handful of the most trusted receive that honor. I was summoned in the 112th year of my life, still young for my kind. I recall the weight of that summons as I neared the inner doors. The air thickened, charged with unseen forces. The temperature plunged, frost creeping over my armor, then soared until the frost boiled away in steaming clouds. Reality itself shuddered around the wound at its core, the junction where the material and immaterial are forced together. When the doors opened, I saw a sight that has haunted me for 10,000 years. The Emperor of mankind, master of humanity, architect of our destiny, reduced to a desiccated husk strapped to an ancient machine. Flesh that had once radiated power and vigor now clung tightly to bone. a face once noble and commanding twisted into a frozen rictus of death. Only his mind endured, a blazing psychic storm raging against the dark, holding shut the doorway through which damnation presses. I felt his awareness pass over me, a fraction of his vast mind turning my way. Not recognition. He had far greater burdens than any single custodian, but acknowledgement. In that instant, I finally understood the true nature of my oath. We do not guard the Emperor. We guard what the Emperor guards. We are only the outermost layer of a defense that stretches into dimensions no human senses can grasp. That knowledge has carried me through the ages. When doubt nibbles at the edges of my consciousness, when the cycle of duty threatens to crack my sanity, I return to that moment of pure understanding. We may appear to be little more than gilded sentries, but our vigil serves a purpose far beyond mortal comprehension. The Emperor does not sleep. He does not rest. For 10,000 years his mind has fought the ruinous powers, holding shut the tear in reality carved by the arch-traitor. Were his focus to falter even for a heartbeat, the forces of chaos would surge through, drowning terror in a flood of madness and corruption. Thus he cannot spare even a fragment of thought to rule, to guide, to inspire. He is incarcerated within his own sacrifice. In this, at least, we are alike, both bound by duty, both imprisoned by necessity. The difference is that he chose his fate. I was made for mine. Movement at the far end of the hall tears me from my reverie. A hunched figure in simple robes approaches the Eternity Gate. This is wrong. The day's petitioners have already been seen. The night cycle has begun. The palace should be silent now, save for the movement of its guardians. I shift my weight by the smallest degree, ready to act if needed. As the figure comes nearer, I dissect her with the preternatural speed and precision bred into my kind. Female, elderly, unarmed, no obvious augmetics, no visible warping or mutation. Her robe is plain, without sigils or rank markings. A menial, perhaps, one of the countless laborers who tend the palace's physical needs. But no menial would ever dare approach the Eternity Gate unbidden. "Halt!" I command, my voice booming through the vast chamber. "Identify yourself." She stops. Clouded eyes lift to my helm. There is no fear there, no awe, only a deep, grinding weariness that echoes my own. "I am no one," she answers, her voice surprisingly clear and steady for one of her apparent years. A memory, a reminder, nothing more. My grip tightens on my guardian's spear. Riddles and cryptic phrases are common among those touched by the warp. "State your purpose, or be removed," I warn. She smiles, a small, gentle curve of the lips that feels alien in this grim place. "My purpose is the same as yours, Guardian. To serve him, to remember what was and what might have been." I step forward, towering over her frail frame. "The Eternity Gate is forbidden to all but those with explicit sanction. Turn back." "I do not seek to pass," she says, unmoved by the threat implied in my stance. "I've only come to deliver a message." "To whom?" I ask. "To you, Decimus Violin. To the one who has stood watch for 10,000 years. To the one who recalls him as he truly was, not the idol he has become." Cold spreads through my veins. No one uses my name. To most, I am custodian or guardian. To those aware of my station, shield captain. My name belongs to a human life I discarded long ago, yet she speaks it with the ease of an old companion. "Who are you?" I demand, the last veneer of calm stripped away. "Someone who knew you before," she replies. "Before the gold, before the oath, before eternity stretched out like a prison sentence before your feet." "Impossible," I snap. "All who knew me then are long dead. Dust for millennia." Her smile grows, revealing teeth impossibly flawless for someone of her apparent age. Are they? Time behaves strangely in his presence. It stretches, it folds, it loops back on itself. Her words sent a tremor through my thoughts. Could she be some relic of the Unification Wars, a preserved mind from the dawn of the Imperium, or something darker, wearing a human shape for convenience? "Give your message and go," I order, patience fraying. She reaches into her robe. Every instinct readies me to strike if she draws a weapon. Instead, her hand emerges, holding a small, tarnished medallion. She extends it toward me. "He wished you to have this," she says. "To remind you. Against all better judgment, I take it with my free hand. The metal is old, its surface smoothed by endless handling, but the symbol upon it is still distinct. A thunderbolt and wings, the Emperor's personal sigil as it appeared before the Great Crusade, before the Imperium, when he still walked openly among his people." "Remind me of what?" I ask, my voice quieter now, touched by a confusion I have not known in centuries. "That before you were perfect, you were human," she answers. "And that, when all else has been stripped away, it is that humanity he values most." Before I can question her further, the palace shudders. Distant alarm klaxons begin to howl. The woman looks up, her expression darkening. "They come," she murmurs. "Sooner than expected. Remember, Decimus. Remember what you fight for." Then she is gone, moving with a speed that belies her age, vanishing into a side passage before I can act. I stand clutching the medallion, a trinket light in my armored palm, yet somehow heavier than my spear. There is no time to dwell on her words or the strange gift. The alarms rise in pitch and urgency. My vox stirs to life, the tribune's voice filling my helm. All custodians to battle stations. Security breach in the outer palace. Multiple incursions detected. This is not a drill. I slide the medallion into a compartment in my armor, already half forgotten. Combat protocols surge to the forefront of my mind, and my body moves on instinct. Centuries of training and hardwired response override contemplation. The brooding sentinel vanishes, replaced by the flawless warrior I was engineered to be. As I advance toward the source of the alarms, the familiar silence settles over my thoughts. The blessed emptiness of pure purpose, the sharp clarity that precedes violence. In that moment, as so many times before, I am free. Yet even as I march to war, a small voice whispers at the back of my mind. The voice of an old woman bearing impossible knowledge and a relic from another age. "Remember what you fight for." The outer palace burns. From the Taurian overlook, I watch the fire spreading, a malignant growth of flame devouring peripheral wings of the complex. Sirens shriek. Emergency systems trigger, sealing off entire sections with blast doors and void shutters. Far above, atmospheric craft circle like carrion birds, their searchlights spearing through the smoke. "Report," I order the assembled custodians at my side. They stand resplendent in auramite, guardian spears held perfectly, statues unaffected by the chaos below. "Multiple breaches along the processional way's rim," replies Navradaran, my second. "Initial data suggests a coordinated strike. The outer defenses are engaged, but the enemy has advanced farther than anticipated." "Composition," I demand, my mind already mapping responses and counter-assault routes. "Unclear. Vox traffic is scattered. Some accounts speak of robed cultists, others claim to have seen Astartes in corrupted plate." My hand tightens on my spear. Traitor Marines. If true, this is no simple riot or petty act of terror. This is a deliberate blow at the heart of the Imperium. "The Sanctum Imperialis," I ask, though I already know. If the inner sanctum were in danger, every custodian on Terra would feel it through the psychic alarms woven into our being. "Secure," Navradaran confirms. The attack appears focused on administrative and ceremonial districts. They have not yet tested the inner rings. "Then their objective lies elsewhere," I murmur. "Or this is only the opening move in something larger." I turn to my brothers in arms, the Eternal Watchmen. "Tiberius, take 3 and reinforce the Eternity Gate. Nothing approaches without my direct sanction. Costas, bolster the halls of devotion. If their aim is to shatter Imperial morale, the reliquaries present a tempting target. Navradaran, you are with me. The custodians salute, fists striking breastplates, then move with effortless precision to execute my commands. No questions, no need to explain. In war, our minds function as one, each of us instinctively aware of his place in the pattern. "Where do we go, Shield Captain?" Naran asks as the others depart. I stare out over the burning outer complex. My enhanced vision picks out details that would be invisible to a normal human eye. There is movement within the flames. Coordinated, deliberate. Not panicked civilians trying to flee, not the controlled advance of loyal defenders, but something else. Something wrong. "We go to the fire," I say. "We find whoever leads this attack, and we excise them with extreme prejudice." We descend from the overlook, moving through the palace with the certainty of those who have walked its corridors for millennia. Every passageway, every chamber, every choke point is laid into our minds with perfect clarity. Where others might lose themselves in the labyrinth of the Imperial Palace, we move as effortlessly as lesser men cross a single room. As we near the boundary between the inner and outer complexes, the signs of battle become unmistakable. Scorch marks blacken ancient walls. Bolter impacts pit marble and ferrocrete. Bodies lie scattered, palace security in scorched uniforms, robed civilians caught in the crossfire, and others that were once human but are now something else entirely. I kneel beside one such abomination, studying it with clinical detachment. Flesh remolded like wet clay. Extra limbs thrust out from the torso, its face has split vertically into a gnashing maw, lined with needle teeth. The stink of the warp clings to it. A reeking psychic miasma that triggers old warnings in my enhanced senses. "Possession," I state. "The work of the Changer of Ways, if I'm not mistaken." Navradaran inclines his head. "Tsinchian cultists, then. But that does not explain the reports of traitor Astartes." "Unless they serve the same master," I reply, rising to my full height. "Or this is an alliance of convenience." We press on, leaving behind the immaculate corridors of the inner palace for the more utilitarian spaces of the outer complex. Here, grandeur yields to function. Ceilings lower, ornamentation thins, then vanishes entirely. These are the working guts of the palace, where uncounted menials and administrators labor to keep the Imperium's bureaucracy grinding on. The smell of smoke grows stronger, acrid, chemical. Ahead, the walls glow with reflected orange light, and the temperature climbs. We are close to the fire zone. A squad of palace security comes into view, sheltering behind an overturned ferrocrete barricade. Their uniforms are singed, their faces smeared with soot and blood. They stiffen at the sight of us, instinctive awe momentarily overriding combat focus. It is a rare thing for common soldiery to witness the custodian guard go to war. "Report," I order. Their sergeant, a stocky woman with a fresh lasburn across one cheek, snaps a shaky salute. "Multiple hostiles, my lord. They hit us without warning. Mostly cultists, but led by, Emperor preserve us, what looked like space marines." "Colors," I press. "Dark blue and gold, my lord. Symbols I did not recognize." I trade a glance with Navradaran. The implications are obvious. "The Thousand Sons," I say. "Traitor legion of Magnus the Red, servants of Tzinch, sorcerers and manipulators. They rarely commit to a straightforward assault without some deeper design." "Their objective?" I ask. "Unknown, my lord." The sergeant shakes her head. "They push through this sector with minimal engagement. Their main force advanced toward the Archivum chambers. The Archivum, a sprawling vault of knowledge containing records pulled from every age of the Imperium. In terms of raw strategy, its value is limited. Symbolically, significant, but not crucial. Unless— "Which section of the Archivum?" I demand, a cold certainty crystallizing in my mind. "The Serpentine Wing, my lord. The sealed section." My suspicions harden into fact. The serpentine wing holds records from the time of the heresy and before. Knowledge deemed too dangerous for general access. Texts that speak of the Emperor's work before the Imperium, of the Primarchs, of the Webway Project. Information which, in the hands of Tzeentch's servants, could be catastrophic. "Hold this position," I order the sergeant. "Reinforcements are en route from the proximal guard stations. Do not advance. Do not withdraw. Hold," she salutes again, fear held in check by resolve. "Until death, my lord." I give a single nod, accepting her oath, then turn to Navradaran. The Archivum. Maximum speed. We shift from a measured stride into a full sprint as one. Our enhanced physiology hurls us forward at speeds no unaugmented human could ever match. Corridors blur around us. Distances that would take others minutes are devoured in seconds. As we run, I vox Kaustas, redirecting his team to cut the enemy off at the Archivum. The flames grow fiercer as we near the administrative districts. Fire clings to the ceilings, devouring tapestries woven before many of these worlds were even discovered, consuming artworks that survived the heresy itself. The heat would reduce a normal human to a stumbling, choking wreck. To us, through armor and gene-forged biology, it is merely hot. We force our way through rooms choked with smoke, past the bodies of those who fail to escape the conflagration. Then we meet the enemy. They emerge from a side passage, a cluster of robed cultists led by two towering figures in archaic power armor. The cultists are already half lost to corruption, extra eyes blinking on their brows, fingers elongated into talons, skin stained in colors no natural flesh should bear. But it is the Astartes who command my full attention. Their armor is indeed blue and gold, the colors of the Thousand Suns, but reworked, heavy with arcane sigils and twisted technologies. Where a loyalist would bear the imperial aquila, their plates carry the warped icon of their god. Their helms are sculpted like avian skulls, with curved beaks and multiple eye lenses glowing with inner witchlight. For an instant, both sides pause in mutual recognition. Then training and superhuman reflexes take over. "For the Emperor," I say, not a bellowed war cry, simply a statement of reality. My guardian spear comes up in a blur and its built-in bolter roars. Mass reactive shells streak toward the nearest traitor. Against a normal foe, even a loyalist Astartes, such a volley would be catastrophic. These are not normal foes. A shimmering field of energy flares into existence, intercepting the rounds. Psychic power woven into a shield turns the explosions aside, bleeding their force into the warp. "Sorcerers," Navradaran spits, the word a curse. The Thousand Suns were always the most psychically gifted of the legions, and chaos has only magnified that talent. But they are not alone in bearing relics from a dead age. I shift my grip, activating the disruption field in my spearhead. The air around the blade warps, reality itself unraveling at the molecular level. Against a weapon like this, psychic barriers mean very little. In answer, the traitors raise force staves crackling with malignant power. The cultists fan out, leveling archaic pistols and twisted melee weapons. "The captain is mine," one of the Thousand Suns declares, his voice distorted by both vox grill and warp-tainted harmonics. "The other is yours, brother." "As you wish, Sorcerer Kion," the second replies with a mocking dip of his helm. "In other circumstances, I would consider such theatricality to be a waste of precious seconds. But I understand it for what it is. An attempt to unbalance us, to inject a psychological edge into a fight that should be decided purely by skill and strength. It is a very old tactic. It does not work on a custodian. I feel no fear, no doubt, only the cold math of purpose. I hurl myself forward, spear a golden blur aimed straight at Kion's chest. He reacts with transhuman speed, his staff snapping up to intercept. The impact is like a thunderclap, energy discharging in a cascade of sparks that set fresh fires where they land. At the edge of my vision, Navradaran meets the second traitor head-on. The cultists hang back, unwilling or too afraid to be caught between such combatants. Sensible. The space between Keon and me becomes a storm of strikes and counters, far too fast for mortal eyes to follow. A normal space marine, even one swollen by the warp's gifts, would be hopelessly outmatched by a custodian in single combat. We were crafted to be superior to the Astartes in every way, built to face things worse than they were ever meant to fight. But these are not ordinary traitors. Their sorcery narrows the gulf. Keon feints with his staff, then lashes out with an invisible force from his free hand. The air congeals and slams into my chest like a battering ram. My armor drinks in much of the impact, but I am still driven back several steps. Before I fully reset my stance, he lunges, staff tip wreathed in ghostly blue flame that radiates a killing cold. I twist aside, the blow missing my chest by a hair's breadth. Frost blooms instantly across my pauldron where the flame grazes it. I answer with a sweeping cut at his legs. He vaults high, flipping over me with inhuman agility, but I am already turning. The butt of my spear catches his helm as he lands, staggering him. I press the moment, driving forward in a relentless barrage. Each strike strips more strength from his psychic wards, peeling them away layer by layer. "Impressive," he hisses, parrying desperately. "The tales of the 10,000 do not disappoint. But you face more than flesh and ceramite, Guardian. You face the power of the great ocean itself." His helm splits along a hidden seam, plates retracting to reveal his face. Like many of his legion, his flesh has twisted into something no longer truly human. His skin is a shifting red, like liquid metal under heat. His eyes burn with inner fire, pupils shaped like the 8-pointed star of chaos. Those eyes lock onto mine, and pressure crashes into my thoughts, a psychic hammer aimed straight at my consciousness. A lesser warrior's mind would shatter under such an assault. But we custodians were engineered with formidable mental bastions, designed to resist powers that would overwhelm navigators and astropaths alike. I meet his will and push back, my thoughts hardening to adamantium. Keon grimaces as his attack breaks against my defenses. "Your mind is closed to me," he concedes, an edge of respect in his voice. "But there are other ways to break a custodian." He gestures sharply, and power thickens around us. The corridor's flames twist and pull together, shaping themselves into humanoid forms that dance and writhe with malicious awareness. Living fire, conjured from the blaze and bound to his will. They surge toward me, a tide of burning bodies. My disruption blade tears through the first, scattering its form, but there are too many to fight one by one. The heat spikes, my armor's cooling systems straining. Warning sigils flare across my helm display as internal temperature climbs toward critical. I trigger a last resort measure woven into my panoply, a single-use pulse of null energy that radiates outward, dampening the link between real space and the warp in my immediate vicinity. The fire creatures flicker and vanish, their bindings severed. Keon staggers as his own psychic connection stutters. I do not hesitate. My spear thrusts out with surgical precision, aimed at the weak point where his gorget meets his breastplate. Enhanced ceramite parts before the disruption field, and the blade drives deep into his shoulder. Black, oil-thick blood gushes forth, reeking of scorched metal and ozone. Keon screams, a sound threaded with inhuman harmonics. He lashes out wildly with his staff, forcing me to wrench my spear free and step aside. "First blood to you, custodian," he snarls, clutching the wound. But this is far from finished. A brief glance confirms that Navradaran is still locked in combat with the second traitor, their duel as evenly matched as my own. The cultists are advancing now, emboldened by the fact that we have not already destroyed their champions. Time is against us. Every second we spend here is a second the main enemy force uses to dig deeper into the serpentine wing. This must end. I advance again, my attacks growing more direct, more brutal. I allow glancing blows to land on my armor, ignoring the warning runes in exchange for driving Keon back. No more indulgence of elaborate psychic tricks, no more summoned servitors of flame. just steel against steel. In that arena, I hold every advantage. Whatever warp-born power he channels, whatever unholy gifts his patron grants him, at his core he remains an Astartes. And no Astartes, loyal or damned, can match a custodian in pure martial prowess. My spear dances, feinting, withdrawing, striking from impossible angles. Each motion flows into the next, building a tightening web of golden death. His parries grow sloppier, his movements less smooth as the injury in his shoulder saps his strength. "You cannot win," I tell him calmly. "Surrender now, and your death will be swift." He laughs, a jagged, glass-breaking sound. "Death? You think I fear death, Golden One? Death is a doorway to those who serve the Changer of Ways. Slay this vessel, and I will return again and again until the stars themselves burn out. Then I will kill you again and again," I reply. "Until the end of time, if I must." My spear flashes forward faster than even his corrupted instincts can follow. The disruption blade shears through his staff as it rises too late, through his breastplate and into his primary heart. His eyes widen, shock and agony flaring there, the blue flames sheathing him gutter and die. "Impossible," he rasps, black blood bubbling at his lips. "The prophecy, the texts said," I twist the blade, severing his secondary heart as well. "Your prophecies mean nothing here." His body collapses, armor crashing to the floor like a fallen bell. I draw my spear free, its blade slick with corrupted blood. Even as I watch, his flesh begins to dissolve, sublimating into unreality as the warp reclaims its broken servant. I turn, ready to assist Navradaran, only to see that he has already felled his opponent with equal efficiency. The cultists, seeing their champions fall, break and flee down the corridor. We let them go. They are an afterthought. Our true concern lies ahead. "The Archivum," I remind Navradaran. He nods once. We move out again, urgency renewed. The duel has cost us precious minutes, time the enemy has likely spent hunting for whatever forbidden knowledge they came here to find. As we run, I vox Kaustas for an update. "In position outside the Serpentine Wing," he reports. "Signs of forced entry. Heavy fighting within." "Hold position," I order. "We advance from the rear. We will pin them between us." The crowded administrative corridors give way to the grand halls of the Wars Archae Imperialis. Unlike the functional spaces behind us, these were built to inspire awe. Vaulted ceilings vanish into shadow far overhead. The walls are lined with stasis cases containing texts of incalculable value, knowledge preserved from the dark age of technology, from the Great Crusade, from every era of imperial history. The air tastes of ancient dust and preservation chemicals, tainted now by the stink of burned propellant and the copper tang of blood. Signs of battle thickly mark the approach to the Serpentine Wing. Bodies lie strewn across the marble floor, Archivum staff in their robes, palace security in their armor, twisted cultists whose flesh is already decomposing at an unnatural rate, sliding back toward the warp that warped them. We round a final corner and come face to face with Kaustas and his squad. They stand in a tight defensive formation before the ornate entrance to the Serpentine Wing. The doors themselves have been breached, their ancient locks shattered by brute force or sorcery. "Status," I demand without preamble. "Enemy forces inside," Kaustas reports crisply. "Approximately 20 cultists supported by 3 traitor marines. They are searching for something specific. We have contained them but have not yet pressed in to annihilate." I nod once, approving. Costas has followed protocol flawlessly. In any situation involving the potential theft of forbidden knowledge, containment takes precedence over annihilation. Better to pen the enemy in with the prize they seek than drive them to panic and destroy irreplaceable data in their desperation. "Formation Taurian Aegis," I command. Naran, Kaustis at the spear tip. The rest form the shield wall. The custodians flow into position without hesitation. Centuries of drilling have made the intricate maneuver as instinctive as breathing. 3 warriors at the point of the wedge, the remainder curving behind us in a protective semicircle. Guardian spears level, their overlapping lanes of fire turning the corridor into a killing ground. It is a formation built for confined spaces, maximizing our offensive reach while maintaining an unbreakable defensive shell. We advance through the shattered doorway and into the serpentine wing. The place lives up to its name, a long, winding passage that coils through the heart of the archivum. Here the walls are not simply lined with texts, they are texts. Microscopic script is etched into adamantine plates, recording information too dangerous to be entrusted to more fragile mediums. The floor is strewn with the bodies of archivist adepts, their robes soaked dark with blood. Unlike those in the outer chambers, these were not mere clerks. They were warriors of the Adeptus Telepathica, psyker adepts sworn to guard the Imperium's most sensitive lore. They did not fall cheaply. The dead cultists lying among them testified to the ferocity of their stand. We press deeper, following the sounds of activity ahead. The corridor opens into a circular chamber dominated by a vast crystalline structure at its center, an alien data vault, relic of the dark age of technology, pressed into service for the Emperor's purposes. It throbs with internal light, casting fractured shadows across the room. Roving around it are robed figures, scanning its facets with arcane devices. Watching over them stand 3 traitor marines in the colors of the Thousand Suns. Their armor even more elaborate than the ones we faced earlier, denoting higher rank in their warped hierarchy. One carries a staff capped by a crystal that glows in harmony with the central repository. His helm is shaped like a jackal's head, muzzle elongated, ears swept back. He looks up as we enter. "Right on schedule," he says, his voice resonant with unnatural power. The Guardians arrive to witness the culmination of our work. I waste no breath on a reply. Heretic's words are air. I catalogue the battlefield instead. The chamber offers little cover. The central construct blocks our direct line of fire to the far side, where I see a secondary exit. The cultists are scattered and vulnerable, but the traitor marines stand in guarded stances that speak of long experience. "For the Emperor and the throne," I intone. As one, the custodians surge forward. The chamber erupts into chaos. Bolter fire thunders from both sides, mass reactive shells detonating against armor, chewing into the crystalline core, gouging chunks from the ancient walls. The cultists scatter, some snatching up weapons, others continuing their work in frantic haste, protected by shimmering psychic wards their masters raise around them. I mark the jackal-helmed sorcerer as the primary threat and drive toward him. Navradaran and Kaustus break left and right to engage the other 2 traitors. The rest of the shield wall holds the entrance, cutting off retreat and laying down precise, controlled fire. My target lifts his staff, and reality warps around him. The air between us fills with screaming faces, psychic energy sculpted into a tide of howling visages. They swarm me, bringing not physical blows, but mental shock. Each touch is a hammer strike against my mind. I push through them, my will honed to a blade, my purpose a fortress. The sorcerer retreats, startled by the futility of his assault. His staff rises too late to deflect my thrust. My spear punches through his psychic shield with the sound of shattering glass, the disruption field tearing apart the sorcerer's construct. The killing stroke, however, never lands. He disappears in a flicker of twisted light, reappearing atop the crystalline repository, balanced on a jutting facet. "You fight well, custodian," he calls down, "but you do not understand what is happening here. We are not your true enemies today. We are merely the weight that tips the scales." Even as he speaks, I realize the cultists have finished whatever they were doing. They step away from the repository. Its inner glow intensifies, shifting from white to a nauseating purple. Warning runes flare across my helm, energy patterns consistent with warp manifestation. "Stop them," I snap, but the order comes too late. The cultists begin to chant, their voices merging into a single discordant chord. The repository responds, its pulses synchronizing with their words. The temperature crashes. Frost blooms on our armor, the walls even seeming to crust the air itself. I hurl myself toward the crystal, intent on shattering the ritual. The leader sweeps his staff, and a wall of invisible force slams into me, driving me back a step, then another. Each pace forward becomes a contest of will and strength, brute power against sorcery. Around me, my brothers are locked in duels with the other traitors, Auramite against warped Ceramite, guardian spears crossing with demon-tainted weapons. Their movements are textbook perfection, precise, economical, every strike a potential kill. The Thousand Suns, though, are slippery. Their sorcery makes them hard to corner, their actions difficult to anticipate. The chant reaches its peak. The crystalline repository explodes. Shards blast outward in a storm of razor-edged fragments. Cultists are shredded. We weather the storm behind our armor. Where the structure once stood, a roiling vortex of purple light tears open, a wound in reality from which something begins to emerge. A figure steps through. He is tall, even by Astartes standards. His armor bears the blue and gold of the Thousand Suns, more baroque than any we have seen so far, inscribed with eldritch sigils and glowing from within. His head is bare, his face both beautiful and terrible. Features perfectly proportioned, expression utterly inhuman. I know him at once, though I have never before seen him in the flesh. The memories implanted in me at my creation included data on every one of the Emperor's sons, loyal and damned alike. Ahriman, chief librarian of the Thousand Suns, architect of the rubric that froze his legion in spectral armor, saving them from mutation at the price of their souls. One of the most dangerous psychers alive. The inner sanctum is breached. Eyevox on every custodian channel, triggering emergency protocols that have slept for millennia. Traitor Primarchs sighted. This is not a drill. Even as I speak, I know the designation is wrong. Ahriman is mighty, one of the most feared sorcerers in existence, but he is no Primarch. Yet my senses tell me something impossible. The psychic output tearing from him is vast, far beyond what even he should possess. It is as though he serves as a conduit for a greater power, something that cannot fully incarnate in the material universe. At last, the jackal-helmed sorcerer breathes, dropping to one knee. The texts are secured, my lord. The ritual is complete. Ahriman surveys the carnage with a casual glance, his gaze sliding over the custodians like we are insects on a battlefield. When he speaks, his voice is layered, several tones overlaid in perfect harmony. The Crimson King will be pleased, he says, invoking the title of Magnus the Red. The first key is ours. I do not know what key he means. It is irrelevant. My duty is clear. With a wordless snarl, I charge. The sorcerer who addressed him moves to intercept. I swat him aside with a backhanded blow that sends him smashing into the wall. Ahriman turns toward me, unhurried, curious. He does not even raise a hand in defense as I close, spear leveled straight at his heart. Only when the disruption blade is a breath away does he act. He makes a small motion, speaks a word in a tongue that flays the edges of my mind, and I freeze, locked in place as if entombed in adamantium. My muscles strain uselessly against bonds of pure will. My thoughts slam against psychic shackles that refuse to break. Interesting, Ahriman muses. Studying me as a savant might study a rare specimen. The Emperor's craftsmanship endures, even now. Your mental bulwarks are impressive, custodian, but ultimately inadequate. His gauntleted hand hovers just above my helm. I feel pressure building inside my skull, an immense alien intellect pushing against my thoughts, prying at every seam. I resist with everything I am, with gene-wrought will, with centuries of discipline, with the certainty written into my cells. For a moment, it seems I might hold. The pressure wavers, strain flickers across his unnaturally perfect features. Then the presence surges, doubled in strength. Pain detonates behind my eyes. White-hot agony tears through me, beyond anything even my transhuman frame is designed to endure. Images erupt in my mind, vivid and impossible. The Golden Throne, the Emperor, not as the ravaged form he is now, but in his true majesty. The Primarchs gathered around him. Glimpses of the Webway project, his secret plan to free mankind from dependence on the warp. Shards of knowledge I should not possess, could not possess, ripped from hidden depths inside me, or perhaps forced into me by the invading will. Yes, Ahriman murmurs distantly through the fog of pain. Just as the prophecy spoke. The guardian who remembers. The key that walks. With an effort that feels like lifting a mountain, I force words past clenched teeth. I am no key. I am his sentinel, his blade, his will made manifest. You are what he made you to be, Ahriman replies. But perhaps not for the purpose you think. Before he can elaborate, golden light floods the chamber. The weight in my mind lessens as Ahriman turns away from me. From the edge of my vision, I see reinforcements arriving, a shield host led by the Tribune himself, their armor blazing against the warp-lit gloom. Ahriman steps back, releasing his grip. I stagger but do not fall, my spear still in my hand. Another time, perhaps, he says, as if we are discussing a game rather than a battle. He seems utterly unmoved by the arrival of over a dozen custodians. The seeds are sown, the wheel turns. We will meet again, Decimus Violin. With those final words, he raises his hand. The warp rift swells, swallowing him and his surviving followers. Reality groans, bleeds, and then seals. They are gone, snatched back into the Imperium. I stand amid the wreckage of the Serpentine Wing as my brothers secure the area. The Tribune strides toward me, his ornate armor marking him as one of the highest ranking among us. "Shield Captain," he says. "Report." I straighten, forcing aside the lingering echoes of Ahriman's intrusion. The enemy penetrated the Serpentine Wing and accessed the crystalline repository. They extracted something, data of unknown type, and used it to fuel a warp breach. Ahriman of the Thousand Suns led the operation personally. The Tribune's expression is hidden behind his helm, but the faint tightening of his stance betrays his concern. "Ahriman, you are certain?" "I am," I confirm. He spoke of a key, of a prophecy concerning a guardian who remembers. Whatever his ultimate aim, he achieved it before we could stop him. "This is troubling," the Tribune says. "If Ahriman himself walks the field, the stakes are higher than we believed. And this talk of keys and prophecies, it reeks of Tzeentch's design." I nod, but my thoughts are not solely on strategy or threat assessment. Something of that psychic assault remains lodged inside me, a splinter that does not feel entirely my own. A question pulses in my skull, matching the rhythm of my heart's. What if my purpose is not what I have always believed? What if the Emperor made me, made all custodians for reasons beyond mere guardianship? I shove the thought away. Such doubts are unworthy of one of the 10,000. My duty is simple, has always been simple. To serve, to protect, to stand eternal watch over the master of mankind. Nothing Ahriman said can change that truth. The palace is secure. The Tribune continues. Enemy forces in the outer complex have been destroyed or routed. It appears this was their true objective, a precise strike at the Serpentine Wing with the wider assault as a distraction. We should raise security on all data repositories, I advise. If they have sought one key, they may return for others. Already done, the Tribune replies, and the Serpentine Wing is under quarantine until we determine exactly what was taken and why. The Emperor protects, Shield Captain. The Emperor protects, I answer, the ritual words leaving my lips automatically after 10 millennia of repetition. But as we leave the shattered chamber behind, Returning to our posts and our endless vigil, a smaller voice whispers a different thought in the depths of my mind. The Emperor protects, yes, but who protects the Emperor, and from what? The days that follow pass in a blur of heightened vigilance. The palace, already the most heavily defended structure in existence, becomes a fortress within a fortress. Entire wings are sealed. Access is restricted even for those who once walked the halls freely. The Adeptus Custodes mobilize in strength not seen since the last Black Crusade. Our golden armor becomes a constant presence at every vital node of the palace. And through it all, I stand my watch before the Eternity Gate. Outwardly unchanged, inwardly roiling with questions I have no right to ask and doubts I should not harbor. It is not the battle with Ahriman that has shaken me. I have faced worse foes, not even the psychic agony of his intrusion, though its echo still lingers in quiet moments. It is his words, the implications woven into them, that trouble me. The key that walks, the guardian who remembers, as if I am something more than a sentinel, as if my existence contains some hidden function beyond the obvious. On the 7th day after the attack, Navradaran comes to relieve me. The changing of the guard is a ritual we have enacted countless times, a meticulously choreographed exchange that lasts precisely 12 seconds. No speech is required. None is given. But today, as I turn to depart, Navradaran breaks protocol. The tribune requests your presence in the Hall of Weapons, he says, his voice pitched so low that only my enhanced hearing could catch it. Immediately, I reply with the slightest nod. I head there at once. The Hall of Weapons is more than an armory, though it is that as well. It is one of the most secure chambers on Terra, shielded by technologies and wards that make observation or intrusion virtually impossible. It is where custodians go when their business must remain beyond the reach of any eyes but their own. The tribune is waiting when I arrive, accompanied by 2 others, Caustus and Valerian, the blade champion of the Custodian Guard. All 3 are bareheaded, their helms set aside. It is a sign that this gathering, though high in importance, sits outside normal ritual and command structure. Decimus, the tribune greets me, using my name rather than my title. Another break with protocol. Thank you for coming. I remove my helm and clip it to my belt. You summoned me, Tribune. I am here to serve. Indeed, he says, his ancient face as unreadable as ever. But the question of how best to serve has grown more complicated given recent events. He gestures toward a hololithic projector at the center of the chamber. At his command, it flickers to life, casting a 3-dimensional image of the crystalline repository from the serpentine wing, now shattered beyond repair. We have concluded our analysis of the attack, he says. The repository held information dating back to the Great Crusade. Specifically, data on the Emperor's work with the human genome and the creation of enhanced warriors. The Custodes, the Thunder Warriors, the Astartes, and other less successful experiments. I frown. Such records are valuable, certainly, but they hardly seem to warrant the risk of Ahriman's personal involvement. That knowledge is of historical and theoretical interest, not something that would grant the traitor legions a decisive advantage. That was our first assessment as well, Caustus adds. But further examination revealed something unusual. The analysts discovered that the repository had been accessed once before, approximately 900 years ago, by the Captain General himself, acting on direct orders from the High Lords of Terra. That, in itself, is startling. The Captain General rarely concerns himself with the minutiae of archivum operations. For him to intervene personally, and on behalf of the High Lords, implies political considerations far beyond the normal remit of the Custodian Guard. What was the purpose of this access? I ask. Unknown, Valerian replies. The records are sealed under the Captain General's personal cipher. What we do know is that after this access, new security protocols were enacted, specifically for you, Decimus. I stiffen, taken aback. For me? I had received no notice of any such protocols. No, you had not, the Tribune confirms. They were implemented without your knowledge. Surveillance parameters, tracking systems, psychic monitoring, all focused on you and you alone. My thoughts reel. To be watched by my own brothers, not as a matter of standard security, but as a potential risk. It borders on unthinkable. Do you believe I am compromised? I ask, flat and direct. It is less a question than a diagnosis. No, the Tribune answers, his tone unwavering. If we believed that, you would not be here. You would be confined, your mind already under the scrutiny of the Silent Sisters. What we believe is that you are significant in ways even the Captain General may not fully grasp. He adjusts the hololithic display. The image shifts from the shattered repository to one of me, standing vigil before the Eternity Gate. The projection cycles through what must be years of observations, my stance unchanged, my watch unbroken. You are the oldest custodian still in active duty, the Tribune says. The only one remaining who stood with the Emperor during the Unification Wars, before the Imperium, before the Primarchs. You guarded him when he still walked among humanity. You witnessed the construction of the Golden Throne. You were present when he gave his final instructions before being enthroned upon it. I nod slowly as memories long buried begin to stir. Memories I forced down centuries ago because they belong to another era, another life, before the long vigil, before eternity stretched ahead like an endless golden corridor. And now, Valerian continues, Ahriman, one of the most powerful sorcerers in existence, invades the most secure structure in the galaxy. He bypasses vaults of priceless relics and mountains of strategic data that could alter 100 war fronts, all to reach this repository of genetic records. In the process, he focuses on you, calls you a key, and hints you have a purpose beyond the role you've played for 10,000 years. The implications are troubling, I admit. But I am what I have always been. A guardian, a sentinel, one of the 10,000. Nothing more. Are you certain? Kaustus asks quietly, his voice softer than I have ever heard it. Have you felt nothing unusual since the attack? No stray thoughts, no memories resurfacing that had long been dormant. I hesitate. I think of the splinter of doubt lodged in my mind, of the questions gnawing at the foundations of my once unshakable purpose. I think of older memories, scenes from a distant age that have begun to return with startling clarity. My silence is answer enough. The Tribune inclines his head as though confirming a theory. We believe Ahriman's assault was not meant to break you, he says, but to activate something within you, something dormant, something planted long ago, perhaps by the Emperor himself. To what end? I demand, an edge creeping into my voice. What purpose could such a thing serve? That, Valerian says, is what we intend to discover. And to do so, Decimus, we need your cooperation. We need you to remember. Remember. The word reverberates through me, echoing the old woman's admonition at the Eternity Gate. Remember what you fight for. And Ahriman's words, the guardian who remembers. As if memory itself were a weapon, a tool, a key. How? I ask, my voice low. In response, the Tribune gestures toward a shadowed corner of the hall, where an object stands veiled beneath a cloth of deepest black. He strides over and pulls the covering away, revealing a device I've not seen in 10,000 years. A psychic resonator. Dark Age technology, modified by the Emperor's own hand. Used in the shaping of the Primarchs, and then of the Custodes. This will allow us to access memories buried deep within your mind, the Tribune explains. Even those you were made to forget. I stare at the machine, ancient beyond measure. Its function is as awe-inspiring as it is terrifying, to lay the mind bare, to drag every memory, every thought, every secret into the light, even those hidden from oneself. That such a thing resides in the palace at all raises questions I do not dare voice. This is forbidden, I say quietly. Its use is tech heresy of the highest order. The circumstances require extreme measures, the tribune replies without apology. If you truly are a key, if you hold knowledge or capabilities unknown even to yourself, we must uncover them before our enemies do. I look from face to face, brothers with whom I have stood for centuries, some for millennia. Their gazes are steady, resolute. Their path is already chosen. The only uncertainty is whether I go willingly or in chains. In truth, there is no real choice. My duty has always been to serve the Emperor by any means required. If I have become a liability, a weapon that could be turned against him, then I must do whatever is necessary to neutralize that threat, even if it means sacrificing the last sanctuary I possess, my own mind. I consent, I say. The tribune nods, relief softening the lines of his face. Then we begin. The procedure does not hurt, at least not physically. I'm seated in a throne-like chair, the resonator suspended above my head like a malignant crown. Thin interfaces are connected to my nervous system through small incisions at the base of my skull. My armor is removed. I wear only the black bodysuit beneath. I feel exposed in a way I've not felt since before my transformation, when I was merely human. The tribune mans the controls himself, unwilling to delegate such a task. Custodes and Valerian stand back, watching, ready to intervene, though what anyone could do against misfiring Dark Age machinery is uncertain at best. Focus on whatever Ahriman awakened, the tribune instructs. The creation of the Custodes, the Emperor's work, the time before the throne. I close my eyes and obey. The resonator hums to life, its energy flooding through my mind like a tide of liquid crystal. My awareness stretches untethered from linear time. Moments blur. I exist at many points at once. And I remember my life before. Not the vague sense of a past that most custodians retain, but crisp, specific recollections, a family, a dwelling in the wastes of ancient terror. War, hunger, death. Then salvation as the Emperor's armies swept across the land, forging unity with sword and bolt. I remember being chosen, taken to the laboratories beneath what would become the Imperial Palace. I remember the agony as my body was broken and remade to the Emperor's design, the erasure of my old identity, replaced with a new purpose, a new name, a new existence. I remember standing before him for the first time as a completed custodian, feeling the weight of his gaze, the immense psychic pressure of his focus. And I remember his words I had not consciously recalled in 10,000 years. "You will be my memory, Decimus," he said. "When all else is lost, when even I have forgotten, you will remember for me." The scene shifts. The Great Crusade is in full stride. The Primarchs have been found. They lead their legions across the stars. I stand guard in the Emperor's private sanctum as he labors over a project of staggering complexity. A human-built webway, a path independent of the warp to free mankind from the need for navigators and psychers. The future depends on this, he tells me, though I had not asked. It is rare for him to explain anything to anyone, rarer still for doubt to touch his voice. If it fails, if the worst comes to pass, you will be my contingency. You and those like you, another lurch in time. The heresy burns. The Primarchs are divided, some turned against their father. The Emperor prepares to face Horus, his most beloved son, now irredeemably corrupted. Before he departs for that final battle, he summons me. "If I do not return," he says, his voice laden with the burden of foresight, "you must stand guard over what remains, for as long as it takes, until I can give new instructions. I will not fail you, my lord. I vow, every fiber of my being shaped to that promise." "No," he agrees, a sad smile touching his features. "You were made not to fail, Decimus. That is your strength and your tragedy. Memories accelerate, years, then centuries, racing forward." The Emperor, broken and dying after his confrontation with Horus, bound to the Golden Throne. The painful reconstruction of the Imperium, not around the reality of a man, but the myth of a god. Hope ossifying into dogma. Purpose calcifying into blind obedience. And always I stand watch, unchanging, unyielding, a golden statue at the gate of eternity. But beneath those memories lies something deeper. I push further, guided by the resonator into depths I did not know were there. In the deepest vault of my mind, I find it. A memory that is not a memory. Not lived experience, but pure information, implanted whole. I see the Emperor not as he is, but as he could be, restored, reborn, rising from the golden throne with his power unbroken by millennia of suffering. I see him leading humanity again, not as a distant icon, but as the ruler he was meant to be. I see a future where the light of reason and progress drives back superstition and fear. And I understand my role. The key that walks, the guardian who remembers. I do not just carry memories, I carry instructions, a complete blueprint for the Emperor's resurrection, implanted directly into my mind by the master of mankind himself before he was confined to the throne. Knowledge too dangerous to commit to cogitators or tomes. Knowledge that could save humanity, or damn it, depending on who wields it. That is what Ahriman was after. That is why I have been watched for centuries. That is what the Emperor meant when he called me his memory. I surface with a ragged gasp. My skin is slick with sweat. My heart's hammer in my chest. The tribune stands before me, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fear. "You saw it," he says. "It is not a question." "I did," I answer, my voice raw. "I know what I am now, what I was made to be." "Then you understand how grave this is," Valerian says. "If Ahriman, or those he serves, learn what you carry, they could turn it against the Imperium, against the Emperor himself." I nod, the full weight of it settling around me. The knowledge inside me could make possible the Emperor's true return, his resurrection in full, not merely as the corpse light that sustains the Astronomicon, but in the wrong hands it could also be used to end him, to cut him off from humanity forever. "Which is why you must be protected at all costs," the Tribune declares. "You will no longer stand exposed at the Eternity Gate. You will be sequestered in the innermost chambers, guarded constantly until we decide how best to proceed." I rise from the chair, strangely light without my armor, as if I might drift away. "No," I say. The Tribune's gaze hardens. "This is not a suggestion, Shield Captain. It is a direct order from the ranking officer of the Custodian Guard present." "With respect, Tribune," I answer, strength returning with each word. "I cannot obey. The Emperor did not hide this knowledge inside me so it could remain buried forever. He intended it to be used when the time was right. And who decides when that is?" Caustus demands. "You? Us? The High Lords? This knowledge is too dangerous to act upon without absolute certainty. The Emperor decides," I reply simply. "And he has already moved the pieces. Why do you think Ahriman succeeded now, after 10,000 years of failure? Why was I at the Eternity Gate that exact day when I might have been assigned elsewhere? Why was the medallion delivered to me, awakening dormant engrams and priming my mind for Ahriman's psychic key?" I see doubt flicker in their eyes. "We are guardians of the status quo. Change runs counter to everything we have enforced for 10 millennia. Yet we were not created merely to be static watchmen. We were meant to understand his will and act upon it. The time has come," I continue, conviction building. "The galaxy stands on the edge of transformation. The great rift splits reality. Primarch Guilliman walks among us again. These are not accidents. They are signposts of a plan set in motion 10,000 years ago." "This borders on heresy," Valerian warns, though uncertainty cracks his tone. "You speak as if the Emperor still actively guides events, rather than simply sustaining the Imperium through his sacrifice." "Because he does," I insist. His body may be broken, his ability to communicate limited, but his mind and will are still at work. And we, his custodians, are not just door wardens. We are the instruments of that will. I hold each of their gazes in turn. I must go to the throne room. I must stand before the Emperor. Only then will the final key turn. Only then will the last memory unlock. Only then will we know how to proceed. Impossible, the Tribune says. Access is restricted to the Captain General and selected companions. Even I cannot authorize this. Then take me to the Captain General, I answer. Let him hear what has been uncovered. Let him decide. Silence descends as the Tribune considers. He is ancient, even by our standards. He has watched the Imperium decay, seen purpose calcify into ritual, and yet he has remained loyal to our core charge, to serve the Emperor's will above all else. Very well, he says at last. We will seek audience with the Captain General. But understand this, Decimus. If he judges your knowledge too dangerous, if he believes the risk too great, he has the authority to have your mind erased. Your body would remain a weapon in the Emperor's service, but you would cease to exist. I understand, I say, accepting it as calmly as I have accepted every order across 10,000 years. If that is how my purpose must be fulfilled, so be it. We make the journey to the Captain General's sanctum in silence, each of us consumed by our thoughts. Minds circle around the revelation that I have been a living vault for 10 millennia. Unaware of my own contents, I was not made only to fight and to guard, but to remember, to carry the Emperor's most dangerous designs inside a mind that could not be hacked or stolen. The Captain General receives us in his private strategium, a circular chamber whose walls are lined with tactical displays. They show the status of Terra's defenses, and beyond that, the fractured, embattled expanse of the wider Imperium. He is a giant, even among custodians, his armor more ornate than ours, every plate etched with the names of battles fought in the Emperor's name. The Captain General removes his helm. His face is stern and deeply lined, marked by the weight of centuries and the burden of command over the 10,000. Tribune, he says with a short nod. This is an unusual gathering. What brings 4 of my shield captains to my strategium with such urgency? The Tribune answers with his characteristic precision. He outlines the attack on the Serpentine Wing, Aramin's presence, the discovery that I have been under secret surveillance, and finally the use of the psychic resonator and what it drew from the depths of my mind. Through it all, the Captain General's expression barely shifts, but the tension in his posture grows with every word. When the Tribune finishes, the Captain General turns his gaze on me. It feels as though he is trying to pull the truth out of my skull by force of will alone. With his sensitivity to the warp, it is not entirely impossible. You believe you carry instructions for the Emperor's resurrection, he says. Not an accusation, not approval. Just a flat statement. More than instructions, I answer. A key, the final component in a design that has been unfolding for millennia. Guilliman's return, the opening of the Great Rift, the Thousand Suns' growing activity, all of it is connected. All of it part of a pattern the Emperor set in motion before he was bound to the Golden Throne. And this you learned from memories implanted 10,000 years ago, he presses. Memories you, yourself, did not consciously possess until today. Yes, Lord Captain General, I reply. The Emperor foresaw many outcomes. He prepared contingencies for each. I'm one such contingency, designed to awaken when certain signs aligned. And those conditions have now been met, he says, more to himself than to me. They have, I confirm. The medallion's appearance, the strike on the Serpentine Wing, Aramin's intrusion into my mind. None of it was random. Each was a trigger, opening another layer of what I carry. The Captain General rises and moves to a hollow display, not of the wider Imperium, but of the Imperial Palace itself. A 3-dimensional map blooms into the air. Chambers, corridors, defenses, all rendered in cold light. He studies it in silence for a long moment. What you propose, he says at last, would mean bringing you into the Emperor's presence. No custodian of your rank has set foot in the throne room for over 3,000 years. Reshaping the security protocols will take time. With respect, Lord Captain General, I reply, time is what we no longer have. Araman now knows what I am and what I hold. He will not keep that from Magnus. They will come again, more subtly or with greater force. We must move before they do. He turns back to me, face grave. You understand what you ask. To approach the Emperor, as he is now, is to risk your mind, custodian or not. The sisters can only dampen so much of his uncontrolled power. And if you are wrong, if this is a Thousand Suns trap, if corruption has taken root, you may be carrying it straight into the heart of the Imperium. I understand, I say. If I am deceived, if this is truly a ploy of the ruinous powers, then I am already lost. My life is a small price to pay, but if I am right, if the Emperor has indeed steered events toward this moment, then hesitation now would be failure of the highest order. His gaze moves from me to the others, measuring them, weighing their stances. The tribune stands like a statue, unreadable. Valerian looks skeptical, but not unmoved. Caustus's hand rests on the haft of his spear, the set of his mouth making his doubts obvious. There is another possibility, the Captain General says slowly. One none of you have mentioned. What if both are true? What if the Emperor did implant this knowledge in you, and the enemy has since managed to twist it? What if you are both key and snare? Salvation and doom in a single vessel. For the first time in centuries, something like cold curls through my gut. Then that is all the more reason to bring me before the Emperor, I answer. Only he can separate true from false, his design from the enemy's corruption. If I am tainted, he will know, and he will unmake me. The Captain General watches me closely, perhaps testing whether I flinch at the thought. I do not. Very well, Shield Captain Decimus Violin, he says at last. Your request is granted. You will be taken before the Golden Throne, into the presence of the Master of Mankind. His eyes sweep across the others, the Tribune, Valerian, Caustus. But understand, the consequences of this will fall not only upon you, but upon all who have supported this course. If this proves folly, the cost will be great. We understand, Lord Captain General, the Tribune replies, and we accept it. Then it is decided, the Captain General declares. Prepare yourselves. We go to the Sanctum Imperialis within the hour. There is little to prepare. Custodians are always ready, for duty, for combat, for death. My armor is brought to me, freshly consecrated by the artificers. Plate by plate I don it, each piece locking into place with familiar, comforting weight. For 10,000 years, this war plate has been my second skin. Today, it may be my shroud. The medallion, the strange gift from the old woman who was surely no mere mortal, I place in a small reliquary at my belt. Its presence thrums against my side, resonant with the knowledge now fully awakened inside me. We travel by a route most will never know exists. A direct path to the Sanctum Imperialis that bypasses the usual checkpoints and ceremonial approaches. The Captain General leads. The Tribune and I follow. Valerian and Caustus bring up the rear. Those few we pass stare, but do not dare speak when they see who walks among us. As we approach the inner core of the palace, the air thickens. The Emperor's psychic presence bleeds through stone and metal alike. I feel minute fluctuations in temperature and pressure, subtle warps in reality itself, like ripples in a pond radiating from some unseen stone. The final gate stands before us, a colossal door of adamantium and auramite, covered in wards against demonic incursion and psychic intrusion. Before it stand two silent sisters, their very existence a null in the raging storm beyond, and two of the companions, those custodians chosen to stand eternal watch inside the throne room. They recognize the Captain General at once and salute. He returns the gesture, then addresses them in an ancient tongue, a battle cant from the Unification Wars, known only to the most senior of our kind. I have not heard its syllables spoken aloud in millennia, but I understand every word. By the authority of the Captain General, he says formally. We bring one who remembers into the presence of he who commands. The companions exchange a look, then answer in the same old language. The presence is volatile, one warns. The sisters report heightened activity. Proceed with care. They step aside. The gate begins to open, its massive hinges moving with ponderous inevitability. Beyond lies the culmination of my existence, the purpose for which I was made. The Emperor. The throne room does not fit neatly into human concepts of space. It seems both vast and compressed, its proportions subtly wrong, as if reality itself warps to accommodate what sits at its center. The golden throne dominates everything, a colossal machine whose origins are lost to all but the Emperor, reshaped by his hand into life support and psychic amplifier, both. Upon it rests what remains of the master of mankind. His body is little more than a husk, skin stretched thin over bone, limbs wasted. Tubes and conduits pierce his flesh, pumping fluids in and out, sampling the last flickers of life. The face that once was the apex of human perfection is now a skull, given a thin mask of skin. And yet the power that radiates from him is beyond comprehension. It batters my mind like a solar flare. A constant storm of psychic force, barely restrained by the silent sisters moving ceaselessly through the chamber, their null auras the only check against the tidal wave. Servitors shuffle among consoles, too simple-minded to be destroyed by proximity to such power. The companions keep their stations, unblinking, their vigil unending. We advance slowly. Even the Captain General, who has walked this hall many times, moves with a reverence bordering on fear. Each step draws us closer to the core of humanity's belief, to the being who forged our species' destiny and sustains it still at unthinkable cost. At about 20 paces from the throne, the Captain General halts and raises a hand. We stop. Only you go on, he says. As it should be. I step forward alone. Every movement feels at once light and impossibly heavy. The weight of 10,000 years presses down upon me. For the first time, I understand in full what I am. Not just a guardian, but a vessel for something too dangerous to be written or stored. The psychic pressure intensifies with each pace. Even my engineered mind struggles to hold its shape beneath the pounding. Images flash across my thoughts, the crusade, the heresy, the slow decline of the Imperium, the countless years of unchanging duty. Woven through it all is the constant presence of the Emperor, his awareness stretched thin across realities I cannot name. I reach the base of the throne and drop to one knee, bowing my head. There are no formal rites left for this. Whatever protocols once existed have long since eroded. So I reach back to a time before he was a god, to when he was a commander who spoke to his sons face to face. My Emperor, I say quietly. Even with my enhanced hearing, the words barely reach my own ears. I am Decimus Violin, shield captain of your Adeptus Custodes. I stand before you as you commanded, when the signs aligned and the key was delivered. I come to fulfill my purpose. The corpse upon the throne does not move. Yet I feel it. A subtle tightening of the psychic storm, a focusing, like the narrowing of an immense gaze. I draw the medallion from its reliquary and raise it in both hands. The key has been delivered, as foreseen, I say. The Guardian remembers, as you intended. I am ready, as I have been for 10,000 years. The medallion begins to shine, not the sickly hues of the warp, but clean, golden light, the same quality I remember from his presence in the distant past. It warms in my grip. Not burning, but thawing something that feels as though it has been numb for an age. With that warmth comes understanding, fractured knowledge snapping together into a single, crystalline whole. I know what the Emperor planned, what he set in motion before his interment. I know why I was created and preserved while so many others fell. And I know what must follow. I rise to my feet and turned to face the others. Concern and confusion wore across their features. They can feel the tumult in the air, even if they cannot see what I see. The medallion pulses in time with my heart, with my thoughts. The Emperor has shown me the path, I say, my voice ringing with certainty. I know what must be done, what was always meant to be done when the hour came. "And what is that, Shield Captain?" the Captain General asks, wary. "A sacrifice," I answer. "The final key is not an object or a line of data. It is an act, a willing surrender of what is most precious." Understanding dawns in his eyes. "You speak of your life." "No," I correct gently. "Not merely my life, my self, my purpose, my identity. The thing that makes me Decimus Violin, Shield Captain of the Adeptus Custodes. That is what must be given back, to the one who gave it." "You would let the Emperor absorb your consciousness," Valerian says, horror evident. "Let him consume your soul." "Not consume," I say, the explanation rising unbidden, straight from the truths newly unlocked in my mind. Reintegrate. I was fashioned as a repository, a backup, a shard of his own design, preserved against erosion by millennia upon the throne. I looked back up at the Emperor's withered frame, feeling his attention like the heat of a nearby star. For 10,000 years, he has fought in the Imperium. His awareness, stretched to breaking, scattered across dimensions we cannot conceive. In that endless war, fragments of himself have been torn away, memories, knowledge, intentions vital to his purpose. I was made to hold some of those fragments safe, to return them when the moment came. "And that moment is now?" the Tribune asks, voice steady despite all this. "It is," I say. Gilliman's return, the great rift, the thousand suns moves. They are milestones, markers on a path laid out long ago. The Emperor foresaw this convergence. He created me and others for precisely this point in time. "Others?" Kaustus seizes on the word. "There are more like you?" "There were," I reply as more memories rise. 9 of us originally, each bearing a different fragment of his mind, his plan. I do not know if the others still live, if they have already fulfilled their role, or if they yet wait. I know only that my thread has reached its end. The Captain General steps closer. "You understand the cost. If you surrender your consciousness, there will be nothing left of you as an individual. Decimus Violin will be no more." "I understand," I say, feeling no fear, only a deep, resonant sense of completion. This is what I was made for, the point toward which every moment of 10,000 years has bent. "And if you are wrong," he presses, "if this is a deception injected into you by Ahriman, a counterfeit purpose, I do something I have not done in longer than I can remember." I smile. "Then the Emperor will annihilate me utterly," I say. "And the situation remains unchanged, but I am not wrong." The Captain General studies me in silence, reading whatever he finds in my face. At last, he inclines his head, a small, heavy nod. "So be it," he says. "Fulfill your purpose, Shield Captain Decimus Violin." "In the Emperor's name, in the Emperor's name," I echo. I turn back to the throne and ascend the steps. No one stops me. Whether they cannot move under the Emperor's will, or simply understand that what happens now lies beyond any of them, I do not know. I halt at the very foot of the seat. Up close, the Emperor's ruin is impossible to ignore. The cracked skin, the shriveled limbs, the web of conduits forcing his body to continue. His eyes are closed, sunken deep, and yet his focus is on me completely. "I return what was entrusted," I say, pressing the medallion to my chest above my primary heart. "I give back my purpose to your will." The medallion erupts with golden radiance. It burns through auramite as if it were parchment, sinks into my flesh, into my soul. Pain rips through me, deeper than any blade could reach. It feels as if the very structure of my being is being taken apart. I do not resist. This is why I exist. My awareness stretches. My sense of self loosens from the confines of muscle and bone. My memories, my thoughts, every piece of what I have ever been, peel away from the physical shell and are drawn upward, toward the blazing singularity of the Emperor's mind. As I am taken apart, I see his plan across aeons, a tapestry of such scope that no mortal consciousness could ever contain it. I see the small segment that is mine, one thread among uncountable, yet necessary for the pattern to be whole. I see the possible future, humanity risen beyond its current stagnation, strong enough to face the darkness between the stars. And I see myself, not ending, but changing, not erased, but rejoined. My consciousness reabsorbed into his, filling holes torn out by 10 millennia of uninterrupted war against the ruinous powers. Not an end of service, an evolution of it. The last thing I hear before my individuality dissolves is his voice. Not the mythic thunder of legend, nor the faint psychic nudges reported by those who claim to have felt his guidance, but the voice I remember from long ago, when he still walked beside us. "Well done, Decimus," he says. In those 3 simple words are approval, gratitude, and something I never expected. Recognition, not of what I did, of you who I am. Welcome home, and then I am no more. And I am everything. The body that was Decimus Violin opens its eyes. The form is unchanged. A golden-armored custodian standing before the throne. But the will that drives that flesh is no longer a single, separate self. It is a shard of something far greater, a fragment of the Emperor's own recovered mind, walking once more in the material world for a specific purpose. It turns toward the Captain General and the others, who stare in shock as golden light slowly fades from the air. When it speaks, its voice carries layered tones, harmonics that make the chamber hum. The first key is turned, it says. The process begins. The Captain General drops to one knee at once, recognizing the presence that looks out through familiar eyes. The others follow, heads bowed. "What would you have us do, my Emperor?" the Captain General asks, steady despite the enormity of what stands before him. "Prepare," the being answers. "The 8 must be found, the fragments gathered, the whole restored." It tilts its head as if listening to distant voices no one else can hear. Time grows short. The enemy moves. The final battle draws near. "The 8, Valerian ventures. Shield Captain Valen spoke of 9 repositories, himself and 8 others. "Yes," the being says. 8 remain, scattered across the stars, hidden even from themselves. They must be found before the enemy reaches them. They must be brought here, to Terra, to the throne." "And when all are assembled," the Tribune asks. The being's expression shifts into something that resembles a smile, but is too flawless to be entirely human. "Then I return. Not as I was, for that self is gone, spent for your sakes, but as I must be, to lead my children through the darkness to come." It looks back at the ravaged body on the throne, its gaze full of emotions no mortal language could capture. Grief and joy, regret and acceptance, ending and beginning folded into one. "The long vigil nears its end," it declares. "The wheel turns, the circle closes. What was broken shall be made whole. What was lost shall be found again." In that voice, those words, the custodians present hear more than a promise of their master's return. They hear the echo of a destiny written 10,000 years ago by the Emperor's own hand. A destiny that has demanded a perfect sacrifice. The willing offering of one who stood guard for an age, never knowing he was, himself, the key. Decimus Violin, shield captain of the Adeptus Custodes, guardian of the Emperor's vision, first of 9, beginning of the end, herald of a new dawn. His watch is over, but his service goes on, changed in form, unchanged in essence, as it was always meant to be. In the shadow of the golden throne, in the first glimmer of a future not yet born, the next phase of the Emperor's design begins.